What's up, guys? Welcome to the Big Stud Podcast. So what you're about to listen to is part 2 of a 2-part series of me being interviewed by one of my previous coaches. So Cody Jefferson is somebody who I worked with for a little over a year, respect a lot, and I asked him to help me do a special project specifically for my podcast where people were asking more questions about my journey and my perspective. And honestly, it's easy for me to talk about my opinion on things. It's harder to talk about my journey and know what parts of that story are important, which ones aren't. And so what you're about to listen to is part 2 of that interview. So if you have not listened to part 1 yet, please stop, go back to listen to part 1, or part of this interview will not make sense because what you're about to dive into is part 2. If you listened to part 1, hopefully you got some value from it. If you did, I'd love to hear from you. Did this special project impact you? Because if it did, I'd like to find a way to do it more. Overall, my goal is to impact people with every conversation I have, and I believe that we did that with this episode. So if you haven't listened to part 1 yet, please go listen to part 1. If you did listen to part 1, let me know what you thought. I'm excited for you to hear the second half of this interview.
What is, because I hear all this about your wife. Who would you be without your wife?
I mean, I hope to never meet that man.
What is your favorite thing about your wife?
Her unapologetic and her love and her faith. Like, she's unconditional, unapologetic about it. And like her ability to see people, love people, and like keep a smile on her face, and her willingness to evolve with me. Like I can't. I'm sure I am not properly valuing how much that has impacted our marriage as well. Because I've been aggressively like investing in myself and coaches and masterminds and reading and writing and all the things I've done to improve as a person. Her willingness to come on that journey like is an absolute blessing. And I don't know if there's a specific thing about her in regards to that like makes her different, but her willingness to continue to be blissfully dissatisfied with me, like be happy but not done. Like I would have out-evolved her years ago if she wasn't willing to get better and read and improve in herself and work out and keep showing up. And that combination of, you know, her being the rock behind me and my visionary, you know, go get it mentality. I don't think I can state it strong enough. That like the power of having the right woman behind you as a man. Like if more people valued that, they'd want their wife to be completely on board with everything they're doing. Like they'd want their wife completely in the know on everything. If you realize how much of it's a secret weapon, you know, because like Tiff's never on stage with me physically, but she's always on stage with me in my heart, in my mind, beforehand and afterwards, and like in the stands. You know, I've talked to like, I think RoofCon is probably one of the bigger ones. There's probably 2,000 people in the stands. And like Tiff was backstage beforehand, Tiff was at backstage afterwards. And like no one there mattered, but her being there mattered. And like her presence calms me. Her touch quiets my mind. We actually, I'm not sure if I've talked about this publicly or not, but like one of our favorite things to do, like we really like waking up and like we cuddle in the morning. Like it's just like part of our routine. And I used to call her my butterfly catcher, because when I curl up behind her and like we snuggle in together and like my chest and belly hit her back, like my butterflies go away. Like the anxiousness, the frustration, like even if it's only for a minute or two. So she actually got a tattoo recently on her back, on her spine, that says butterfly catcher. Because like that's what she does for me. Well, people like conceptualize like the duck on water analogy, right? Calm on top, feet are just churning. Most people don't understand how much I do. And it's not like a braggadocious thing. I'm not trying to like, oh, I'm better than people, but like even it's like Sam Kaufman, who's on my team now, I coached him for like 2 years leading up to him becoming a team member. And then like he moved to Greenville. So he's around me like 2-3 times a week now. He was probably the most involved in what goes on around me, the most informed. And even he, within 2 months of being here, was like, Mike, no one can possibly understand how hard you work and how much you carry and how much you do and how much you care. And like for somebody who I thought was like the most informed, to say that is like, the truth is I really do just like outwork shit and people and things and problems. And I carry a lot because I love I love hard. I love aggressively. And it's like having those moments with Tiff when I can like calm the butterflies. I don't know how, I can't teach that.
Sure.
But like, she's my butterfly catcher.
Mm-hmm.
And I take that for granted sometimes. You know, I definitely do. But because of that, we've also like prioritized date nights, and like even if we don't want to, we still make it happen because like we know how valuable that time is together. Because it's easy to like, next time, let's skip this one. But we make it a priority to spend that time together.
I'm curious, what do you think that model looks like for your kids? Or maybe what do you, because you're a pretty intentional guy.
Yeah.
What do you hope they catch from this?
Well, I mean, like you brought up earlier, like the conversation, like how do we teach our kids adversity?
Mm-hmm.
Like, show them in your marriage. Like, being married's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Running a business is hard.
Mm-hmm.
Being a parent is hard. And we talk about that with the kids. Like again, I yell at my kids sometimes, but you know what I do when I come back? Hey man, this is what happened. This is the pressure. This is the fear I was carrying. This is why. And then doing that, like being very, very open and direct with the kids around like why things are happening and how we're going to pivot, and like saying, hey, I failed at this, but this is what I'm going to do to get better. And then them watching me do that. Like being willing to fail. Like school teaches you that failure is a problem. Life teaches you that the only way to win is to fail. Like I don't want them to be afraid of trying new things. So like when I try something new and I'm like, yeah, man, I failed at that today. Or like, look how, like, dude, I got a black eye at jiu-jitsu today. Like, it's okay to be bad at things for a period. And like the adversity of getting better, like watching my kids go back to jiu-jitsu. Like MJ did his first competition like a month ago in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
His first one ever. He got his ass handed to him. Mm-hmm. And he was on the mat the whole time smiling, like talking to like he was getting his ass kicked. He was just, hey man, how's your day going? Like he came off the mat just like he cried afterwards because it was a very overwhelming, very overstimulating experience. Like you've never been to a local jiu-jitsu competition. Basically, just like 6 mats in the middle of the floor with 1,000 people around it.
Yeah,
he's never, but like he did it, and like he did it, and we trained for weeks going into it, and like hand-to-hand combat. If that doesn't teach you adversity, mm-hmm. like having someone with their arm around your neck at 8 and learning to stay calm, I'll take that lesson over the adversity of like needing to get to school on time, and like because I'm protecting him from the things I don't want him to learn in school, right? My mom is in the school district, my aunt is, my sister-in-law, like a lot of people that I know are in like the school system is not what it used to be. And the fear of what he might learn in that environment keeps me out of it completely. Like, I'm just not interested. Like my kids are going to have trauma, no matter how hard I try to protect them, they're going to have trauma. But I rather control the trauma mm-hmm. to the best of my ability, and that like watching helping my son see it. Like I'm in the middle of a potential merger with one of the companies, or like I have some clients going through some mergers. I have a client that's looking to potentially completely sell out. I have other things like I've been having conversations with some mergers and acquisitions attorneys. And I sat down with MJ the other day and like walked him through the process and like talking about his like emotional intelligence. He goes, so you're saying if you do this, this person gets this and you get this and that person gets that. And he goes, that sounds like a win-win-win. And I'm like, how do you even know? How do you know what that is? Mm-hmm. Like, how do you know that's a win? And like we had this great conversation around like what does he think winning looks like? Mm-hmm. And helping them look for opportunity to win, helping them figure out what does winning look like? Helping them figure out that like what does conflict resolution look like? Like we don't intentionally like I know some people like we never fight in front of our kids. I don't think that's right. I'm not saying you should be fighting in front of your kids all the time.
Sure.
But I think never fighting in front of your kids gives them an incredibly misinterpretation of what marriage is supposed to look like. Like I'm not saying like Tiff and I like have blowouts in front of our kids, but like we're not afraid to bark at each other a little bit and then talk about like why. Mm-hmm. Or come back and really review, like debrief the situation with them. So like, I hope what we're teaching them is the non-tangibles, conflict resolution, emotional intelligence. Like there's teaching them there's a time and place for everything. Like I let my kids cuss a little. I cuss a lot. I'm working on it. But like teaching my kids like simplicity of there's a time and place for everything. Mm-hmm. Like you can say that was some scary shit. all right, cool. Like you can't say that in front of your grandmother. Like you can't say it at school. You can't like there's certain you can't say it on the baseball field. But like if me and you were watching a movie and like cool, like I allow it. I don't know if that's right or wrong. I don't know, but I'm using it as a tool to teach them there's a time and place for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's a low risk thing, in my opinion. Like I don't think cussing is as big of a deal as people give it. You know?
Sure.
But I think like teaching like you get in trouble for saying shit at school. You don't get in trouble for saying shit when you're hanging out with your dad.
Mm-hmm.
There's a time and place for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think people teach that because there really is. Like there's locker room talk and there's not locker room talk.
Sure.
That doesn't mean people don't think about talking like if they're in the locker room. It's knowing when and how to do that. But I think from a Tiff and I, like how to plan, how to prepare, how to evolve, conflict resolution, and emotional intelligence, those would be the things I think I'm most hopeful that my sons learn from being raised by us.
Are you a playful guy?
No.
Just curious.
No, I actually had a conversation with Keith Yackey about that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
The old yak attack?
Yeah. Like, I'm not a playful person.
Yeah, I don't, like, even in this just back and forth, what I'm missing from the entire conversation is cool. I love that you're so driven. I respect that about you. Where's the fun? Where's the jovialness? Where's the just laughing memories with dad? And where's the playfulness with your wife? And where's that jovial sense that like we may never get today again?
Yeah. So I look for opportunities to make people laugh.
Yeah.
Like I have a decent sense of humor when you're around me.
But that's different.
I'm not suggesting you're wrong.
Yeah.
I do struggle with that. Like I saw Keith at the RBO event.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, man, like how do I learn fun?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know fun. I don't know where that was lost because I was the class clown. Like I used to love like being the lead in like plays. Like I used to love like getting on stage as a kid and like being the lead actor in like a class play or.
Are you still kind of doing that?
I am, but like not in a jovial way.
Right.
Not in a fun way.
No, but you're still playing a part.
Yep. And so like I look for opportunities to make people laugh is the extent of the fun. I don't value it. And I'm not saying that's a bad like I'm not saying that's right. It could be a bad thing. I mean, it is a bad thing to an extent, but like I don't value fun.
Do you think your kids value fun?
Of course. I don't, but I have a hard time playing the part in something I don't value. I have a hard time like enjoying things that I don't see value in. Like baseball, sure, let's go have fun. Like I see the value in that. Sitting down and playing make-believe with toys, I struggle with that severely. So
what you're saying is we're not going to go build a fort after this.
We're definitely not going to go build a fort after this.
Yeah, I'll tell you, upstairs, we're at my house, by the way. Upstairs, we just built a fort. And also, I'll be 100% with you. It's probably easier for me to get in the fort than you.
Yeah, if you built it for you and the kids, you're probably standing up and crawling.
Yeah, it's a blast.
But like, I guess I'll just ask the question. Like, I have outsourced some of that. Like, the nanny's really good at that. Like sitting with them and playing. Mm-hmm. I'm not, and I don't know if how wrong that is, but I value it for them. I just personally struggle sitting in it and enjoying it. But like,
do you have fun with your wife? Do you guys ever just go be silly? Turn music on and dance in the living room?
No, man.
Chase each other around?
Not really.
No. Does she value that?
I don't know if she's ever had it with me. So I guess I don't know. Fair. Right? Like, so I'm better now than I used to be. I'm more jovial now. I'm less serious now. I do create some space for quote unquote fun.
What is fun to you?
Man, it's hard.
What do you make space for?
Well, like we'll work out together.
Okay.
So that's fun for me.
You. Yeah.
But like, that's not fun. That's not jovialness. That's not creative. It's, like, I recently bought a chess board to teach MJ how to play chess. Like, that's fun for me, but I know that's not fun for him.
I don't know. Stetson likes to play chess. Both the boys like to play chess, actually.
Yeah, how do you define fun, I guess? When I failed out of college, I had so much fun in that and it didn't work for me, I really never recovered from that. You know, when I was in high school, my senior year, I tore my ACL. I was a 4-sport athlete in high school. I was football, baseball, basketball, and track. I just made it work. And then I got, track kind of fell off later in high school. And then, my plan was to play football, basketball, and baseball my senior year. Like the Sunday night before my senior year was supposed to start, I tore my ACL playing basketball. And I got back just in time for baseball season. Had like a very good senior year. Like I threw 2 no-hitters, had a 400 plus batting average, a bunch of home runs. And then my last high school game, I tore 2 ligaments in my thumb diving for a ball. And when I didn't have football in the fall, what do you do in high school? You drink. I was in Central Virginia. Like that's just what you did. I developed a drinking problem. And that at the time I was like, this is awesome. Looking back, it was terrible. My 2 best friends from high school went to the same college I went to. One was on the golf team. One played club basketball, and I was playing baseball. And the party just never stopped. I remember waking up like the last day. I was hungover going to my last exam. Like I knew I was getting kicked out because like after the first semester, I was on academic probation. I knew my grades didn't get better. Like I knew I was getting kicked out of school. I remember like waking up as if I was like a spectator to my own life for like 2 years. It was like this awakening.
Yeah.
And I remember like driving to my last exam, called my mom crying, like I failed. I'm everything that you were afraid I was going to become. I did it. And like everything, even then, the only fun I had was athletics and drinking. So like as an adult, I don't have either of those things.
Do you have hobbies?
No. Like I try picking up a guitar and like that goes in spurts, but I don't look forward to it. You know?
What do you look forward to? Work?
Yeah. Work. Helping people. I'm very rigid. Especially the first time I think I recognized that. The only thing I did for fun even as a kid was drinking and sports. We didn't go on vacations. We had travel ball. My parents were very much so like, if you commit to something, you're going to see it all the way through. Like, so we don't go on vacations. You have a tournament. Like the only place we went on vacation, I think, for the majority of my life was my grandmother's house. So I didn't even have fun as a kid. We didn't hunt. We didn't fish. We didn't have hobbies. My dad had none of that.
But what I'm asking is exactly what you just said, and saying your dad didn't have any of that. If you're not careful, your kids are going to say the same thing about you.
I know. I'm opening up right. This is a new realization, sir.
Yeah.
But I'm like thinking like, when's the last time I had fun?
Yeah.
It's kind of sad.
It's unfortunate.
I think I just started drinking so early in life that like drinking, sports, and sex was like pretty much all I did for fun for like, I don't know, 15 years.
Yeah. I mean, all of those things, independent of themselves, I mean, can be fun.
Sure.
But
yeah, but now that like, drinking's off the table for us right now.
That's not fun anymore.
No. And like Tiff and I we have the best sex we've had our whole marriage right now. So I mean, I think let's look forward to that. But that's not stereotypical, like that's not jovial fun.
That's intimacy.
Yeah. It's different.
It's different.
But man, I don't know if I've ever had fun in my life. I think as the oldest, like we're the experiment. Our parents like grow up with us.
Sure.
I think my parents were so afraid of what they didn't know with me. Like it wasn't until my youngest brother graduated college with a master's degree and couldn't find a job making more than like 50 grand a year in his profession that my dad looked at me and said, well, maybe you didn't make a major mistake going back to college. Like me and my dad didn't talk for like 2 years after I told him I wasn't going back. And because that was his ultimate fear, that I was going to be a failure. And I was proving him right from his perspective. And that chip is what pushed me through for like 10 years of hard work.
I hear you. What I'd have you consider though is inadvertently placing that same expectation on your kids. Like we're having so much fun so long as we're consistently working towards how we're going to improve. And they cannot be good at something for a minute, but then we're consistently improving and we're getting better and they're working out with me and they're doing these things. When was the last time you just picked MJ up and said, hey dude, we're going to main event, or we're going to Top Guy, we're going to go play some video, we're going to go shoot some zombies, we're going to go jump in a ball pit.
That's it. I'd say
What do you want to do?
Within the last year, maybe once.
That's what they remember though.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say that's what they can remember. They can remember the other stuff too. It will just be a constant reminder of the expectation my dad has on me to always improve.
So I'm going to give myself some credit here.
I'm not dogging you.
No, you are, and you should be, because this is a new
just a mirror, bro. Just a mirror.
No, appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm dogging me through you. But like, it's one thing. Like, me and my dad never went on like a father-son trip.
Mm-hmm.
Like, growing up, like, we would go like on to family events, like weddings and stuff and funerals, but like, we never went on a father-son trip. So next month, I'm actually taking my sons fishing in Charleston.
Good. I was just getting ready because we just went fishing, and we go fishing all the time. I've literally got poles in my car right now because we go all the time.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy fishing? Because it's not work. You just got to sit there.
Well, we're going to go on a boat. We're going to go inshore fishing. So it's going to be like an experience of a day.
Yeah.
Like, would I enjoy like going and sitting on like the side of a lake casting in for a couple hours?
Come on.
Probably not.
No. Okay.
Come on.
I'm like speaking my language right now. Just let me unplug.
But something like I recently, like literally within the last month.
Yeah.
Because again, like I made some realizations. I was a little bit off mission, and I need to get more clear on what does winning look like to me. In that list, put find time to sit in silence daily. Mm-hmm. Because I live in a constant state of distraction.
Yeah.
And so the concept of going, like, even golfing, like I used to golf. I'd say that's like golf is something I did for fun. And I haven't golfed in years. But like even that, like right now, the concept of like going and spending 4 hours on a golf course sounds like absolutely miserable to me.
Well, yeah, that sounds miserable to me too.
Right. And so like fishing for me would be the same. Like, conceptualize, I'm gonna go stand there to catch something, I'm gonna throw it back. Why am I doing this? Because you get to sit and you get to talk with your boys. That's the pivot. But I think forcing myself now to find times of silence to appreciate it more, because I've never really done it, will help that. And I just say that because, like, I was raised by grandparents. My dad was great. He worked a lot, and so majority of the time I was with my grandparents. And we would go on fishing and hunting trips with my grandfather all the time. And like the most impactful memories that I have had nothing to do with money, had nothing to do with, we didn't do fancy vacations. It was sitting and BSing with my grandfather for hours and just learning so much from him, because he was just a wealth of information. And there were so many things that like I didn't catch at the age that like he was just peppering me with, but over time, and just learning to sit with yourself, learning to sit in silence and not talk, learning to be quiet. As a kid who was just very busy in his mind all the time, it was a practice in learning control, learning patience, and learning to enjoy the quiets. Where, you know, I would ask my grandfather, he was just always talking to God, and that's where I learned the whole concept. You know, what makes me a great coach makes me a challenging father and a terrible friend. You'd consider yourself a terrible friend? And like, I don't do good keeping friends. Okay. For the same reason we just talked about. Like, my kids are gonna like more, get better, improve. Like, I don't keep friends long because like I coach them and I can't turn it off. And when they're not doing as much as they could be doing, or they're underperforming their potential, I point it out. And like most people, when they just want to go fishing for 4 hours and just shoot the shit, don't want to be coached. Sure. And I can't turn it off. I have been unable to turn it off. What if people are content with their own growth pattern that has nothing to do with your expectation? It makes me wildly uncomfortable, and I can't not say it. What happens when it's your kids? I'm doing it to them. I'm acknowledging that I'm wrong. No, I'm asking. Like, what happens? It makes them feel, my fear would be they don't want to be around me because all I do is point out whether they're not doing good enough. And I'm doing it to them already. I'm actively doing it. I'm actively like everything that I don't want to be sometimes. But I like give myself permission, because there's other times I do things that I didn't get. Time spent, acceptance of certain things. Like, and maybe I'm not as good as I believe I am, but like I struggle with friends, and like losing relationships has been one of the hardest things I've had to deal with in my life.
Yeah.
And I wish that I had a good explanation for it. I wish I could be like, oh, just like accept the fact, but like, because I don't do well with fun, that's what friends want to have. I don't do fun well because it ruined my life for a long time, because fun for me was drinking and sports. That's all. Like, even like in my early 20s, like I had friends that were in their 30s, and like all we did, I'd go to their house Friday nights, like Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. We just drank. And like they were just like it was almost a battle of like how many couches and TVs can we fit in a room. That was the friends, and we would just like drink all the time. And I think I've justified it to an extent because of like how many people that I look up to from a success perspective that like talk about the concept of not having a lot of friends and doing most of it alone. And I think I've like allowed myself to justify it. I'll say incorrectly, but that is the truth. Justify the fact that like I don't have friends because I'm meant to be alone. Pretty shitty way to look at it.
I just think that and we can all get wrapped up in this, and specifically in this space, we can get wrapped up in the doing, because it's just if you're not producing, you're losing. And coming from our background, I will say this, some of this is a trauma response, having gone through a lot of therapy, because we've identified that if I'm not useful and I'm not solving problems, this for me came from having just some parents that had some emotional instability and heavier on one side than the other. And so I was always putting out fires, mitigating suicidal tendencies, and holding responsibility the kids shouldn't hold. And so you start to grow up, one, you get addicted to approval and fixing things, but two, your whole sense of self-worth is derived from your ability to solve other people's problems and keep them safe.
And unfortunately, I tied my financial health to that too.
And so then the question is that I think we all have to come to is, okay, well, if I'm not solving a problem, who am I? And is that person worth being? And is that person worth loving? I would say one of the greatest gifts your wife has given you, outside of your kids, is that she's loved you even when most people wouldn't.
No.
She never walked away from you when most people would.
We talk about that a lot. Like
whether you produce or not,
like what she fell in love with.
That's not the contingency for her. And I would say that sometimes she probably loves you in spite of your ongoing frustration to prove. Because true contentment is when there's nothing to prove, hide, or protect.
That's been a big part, I think, when you asked earlier about like our marriage over the last 5 or 6 years. I think shedding everything that we had to hide or protect from each other has been a big game changer. But no, when Tiff met me, I was making 60 grand a year. I was 330 pounds. And
you were enough for her then.
It's hard to give yourself credit sometimes.
I don't even know that it's giving yourself credit. I don't know if you're giving yourself grace.
It's that constant battle of like, am I doing enough?
What is enough though?
It's a battle.
And what happens?
It changes enough changes. Enough changes on a lot of different spectrums, a lot of different scoreboards, a lot of different seasons. Maybe I don't. Maybe I suck at it. Analyzing what's needed of me in the season. So I take a huge responsibility.
Yeah. I don't think that there's anything wrong with shouldering that responsibility. I think that there's also just perspective as well. Having lost a few people in my life, more than most. Some of them being children, some of them being younger siblings. And, I got a call a few weeks ago from a dear, dear friend that I've known since I was a teenager. And she's married. She's got a 5-year-old daughter. And she's got 7 months to live. And I don't know how you deal with that. I would just rather go out on my motorcycle. Like I would rather just go out and I don't know.
Yeah.
And I've said all I needed to say, which is why I'm so intentional every single day to make sure I try to say everything I need to say. But if you understand the finality of this life and you go into it with that kind of grace, that today is a day that you have the opportunity, it's not just to produce, it's also to be. MJ starts having pain in his knee. I'm like, that's weird. A couple weeks go by, it gets worse. That's weird. A couple weeks by, it's like, I can't walk. All right, well, we'll go. Something's off. Blood's off. Something's weird. We're going to send you down the road. Send you down. There's a tumor. Okay. Well, we'll cut it out. Not a big deal. Then you find out that it's cancerous. Then you find out that it's in his blood. Then you find out that it's in his bone. Then you find out there's nothing you can do. And you don't have time anymore. Does everything you've accomplished still matter the same way you think it does now?
No, I couldn't.
Would you have wanted to have more fun, even at the expense of your comfort? Would you try to have fun with him then?
I think the disgusting truth is, like, I don't even know what fun is anymore.
Mm-hmm. Maybe one of the greatest gifts you give yourself in the next season is to figure out what fun is.
Mm-hmm.
And your family.
Yeah, fun for fun's sake.
You know when my son feels I'm safest? When I'm smiling.
Mm. So I'm sure that's most sons and fathers.
When he lights up the most is when I'm laughing.
Mm. Yeah, I'd say my kids are the same.
When he feels the most protected and provided for is when we're playing. One of the lessons that I've had to learn over the last couple of years of my son's life is he was starting to attach my pride in him with his insights into what I do.
Mm. Did you like celebrate him when he like had a good realization of something?
Yeah, or that I would be really excited about something that I was getting involved in. And so he started to equate like dad's only really excited when something in business happens.
Mm.
And it started to create a really interesting dynamic of him trying to then prove things. So I had to eradicate that in myself and recognize, like, as much as I love what I do, I also just love who I am. And if I don't, well, then maybe I need to fix that. So it's, hey, let's go out and you want to work on the bike? You want to throw a ball, like play guitar, any of the things.
I think one of the mistakes that I made for a long time that I haven't been able to course correct entirely is like putting my value in the hands of others. You know, like I failed out of college, I was wrong. Like when I lost sports, I was wrong. You got into 2 different partnerships and businesses when I got out of corporate America. And then like, I'll never forget the day that the dude, I like basically helped him quadruple his business in 2 years, called me and I had an opinion about something. He's like, I sign your fucking paycheck. I tell you what to do. And it was one of the most painful like conversations of my life at that point, because like I sacrificed everything. Like I took $100,000 pay cut to come help him build his company for him to tell me he signs my paycheck. And it was like, how wasn't I enough for him? Mm-hmm. And I went on to the roofing company and like that dude completely fucked me. It's like, well, man, I gave that dude 15 hours a day for 2 years.
Right, I get it.
And like, I am not fully there. I'm better than I used to be. Like I am honestly better than I used to be, but I still, if I'm not proving value outwardly on a regular basis, I assume no value.
The hardest part about that is being so outwardly focused and proving value to people who may never see it and may never recognize it to the desire that you want them to recognize it, and missing out on the ones who could care less about how productive you are and value you just because you're you. Mm-hmm. That's why it's, what does it profit a man to gain the world and lose his soul in the process?
The imposter syndrome still sits there. Mm-hmm. Why does anybody still call? Why does anybody still become clients? Why does anybody want to be coached? Because I think there's still so much left for me to uncover and learn and implement and in different roles and different responsibilities in my life. I don't want to go back to being fat, drunk, anxious, and depressed. And like, this is how I got away from it, right? I talked about earlier, like I started moving away from who I didn't want to be, but I'm still not sure I'm confident in who I do want to be. Mm-hmm. But I know that I'm not what I was. And sometimes like I get complacent in that. Complacent in the fact like I'm not as bad as I used to be, so I'm good enough. But then like not actually believing that. And like there's really no objective measurement around me that would tell me I'm not enough. And it's like valuing those things becomes really challenging. Believing that I am, like they're saying I'm enough and they're actually right. Mm-hmm. It's like, like my kids and my wife don't ever say like, you're not enough. But then
That would never.
they have to try harder for some reason.
They would not even compute to say that.
Right. But then like one time I let my kids down, and it's like, it's easy. Like, I missed a baseball game last night. I know you miss sporting events sometimes too. And then like I go down that internal rabbit hole of, why am I doing all this if I can't even be there when I'm supposed to be there?
Mm-hmm.
The challenge of like just wanting to burn it all down.
Mm-hmm.
Evolution, constantly evolving, can be a really dangerous thing as much as it can be powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say one of the detriments of the whole personal development space is you're always sold a bill of goods that you're not enough as you are.
Yeah.
And so you're always fighting to live up to an expectation instead of living from a promise that was divinely given to you. One of the questions that I find myself consistently asking, because I grew up in a fight or flight environment, and that's just pretty normal. And business is fairly well, like there's a lot of moving parts, and we like that kind of tension. But what if everything's okay?
Probably more true than false. Everything probably is okay. Just hard to accept.
Why? I'm not saying it isn't. I agree. Why is it for you?
I think the fear of, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. It's like the mindset around.
But to whose measure? Yours?
Well, it's easy to find some place in your life to not be happy enough with. Like when you're looking at how many roles that you play, that, well, that's fine, but I'm failing over here, like that. And I coach on this, on like reevaluating your roles and making sure that you're the right amount in each category.
Yeah.
And
Because it's not so binary of like I'm either succeeding or failing.
No, it's like, oh, the business is good. It's like I compare it to a golf game, right? Like on every round, some part of your game is not working.
Yeah, I've never been on a golf course. So
okay, cool. So
but I hear what you're saying.
Like, yeah, you're
in theory.
Yeah,
I know,
you're
I know what you're saying.
You're
here.
driving the ball well. Your irons are crap. You're putting well, or vice versa, right?
That's what rich people played when I was a kid.
Sure. Okay.
I wasn't there. We were riding 4-wheelers.
When in life, there's always a role in your life you could be doing better at.
Sure.
And like I think that's the part that becomes, or that I've struggled with over the years, is I don't know if I'm comparing it to anything other than, I think I struggle with, and like almost everything I coach on are things I've built myself for myself in order to solve something for myself, right? And one of the challenges I struggle with is like analyzing what's enough in each role while also managing all the roles at once. And so I'll look at like, okay, what is, if all I had to be was a dad, what would that look like? If all I had to be was a business, if all I had to do was sales, if all I had to do was be a husband, like what would success look like? The reality is I'm not any one of those things only ever.
For sure.
And like that's where what's enough and why does this role becoming enough is because there's likely somewhere you could be doing better. And then and I'm doing this my whole life, I attach all of my value to the 1 out of 10 things not working right. It's like 9 out of 10 people could love to be my friend. I'm worried about why that one doesn't.
Sure.
And same thing in this now, it's 9 out of 10 things can be working, but I put all of my value into that one that's not, or that one person that left, or that one person doesn't think I'm doing enough, or that one person called me a narcissist, or that one person like, well, if I could just fix that one thing, then everything would be perfect. As opposed to being like, well, these other 9 things are pretty good.
Yeah.
Why? That's my perspective of it.
Yeah, I mean, there's an opportunity cost for everything. And so trying to bat 1,000 in every area of life is a fool's errand because you can't.
Yeah.
And trying to then, I mean, there's a healthy way to prioritize based on your core values and what you believe to be most important to you. On the backside of that, though, I mean, the way that I approach it is I don't look at each individual thing as its own metric. It's like, just this is who I am, and these are the things that I do. And how do I create a rhythm between all of them? How do I create proper boundaries around them?
The boundary thing is the hardest part. Because that's where the
Sure.
perceived opportunity loss comes in.
Yeah.
If I don't go do this event, if I don't go speak here, if I don't create that piece of content, if I don't go to that kid's baseball game, like, what am I missing out on if I don't go do that thing?
Do you find that you create as much of a gap in the opportunity cost when it comes to your family as you do for business?
I think so. Like last night, both the kids had really great games,
Mm-hmm.
and like I felt guilt and shame for not being there. Because like I could have, like that could be an opportunity for me to be like celebrate with them instead of yelling at them for not trying hard enough. And
You'll ever like go have fun, like get hot wings and just laugh and get crazy with some sweet tea?
I mean, like on occasion, like we go to Chick-fil-A or go get ice cream, but like the reality is, like, I'm not joking. I suck at fun, and like this conversation has made me realize
You're like, this is not where I thought we were going today.
Yeah, no,
Like,
I was sure
I'm flying
I
home
was
today.
sure I was going to get coached at some point in this conversation, but the reality is, like, the truth is, I don't know fun,
Yeah.
and like. Just going to go for the intent of laughter is something I don't look for. So the truth is, I guess I don't look at opportunity loss the same personally because I don't think about it the same. Where I know how money flows. I know how clients flow. I know how employees flow. I know how business is supposed to work. So when this cog isn't working correctly, I can immediately see how it's going to affect the rest of the cogs.
You like what you can control without any risk of emotional vulnerability.
Facts. Doesn't everybody?
I mean, no.
I mean, most people protect their emotional vulnerability? Isn't that something most people struggle with?
Not when it comes to their, well, I would say that there are several that do struggle with it, and probably more men than women. And I think that women probably struggle with it more on a relational standpoint than with their kids.
Yeah.
I think that men would probably tend to be more logical in their approach than emotional. But I can tell you also, as somebody who works with a great deal of men, that for most that I'm connected with, kids make them a puddle. Like, they just melt with their kids.
Yeah.
So no, I understand your modality. And I understand, like, I don't think that it's not a conversation of like right or wrong. It's really, it's a conversation of, do you want to continue mirroring your dad? Will your kids grow up?
It's the only father figure I've seen.
That's not true. That's not true.
It's the largest example.
That's not true. You got that guy.
Okay.
That's you.
Yep.
You get to, one of the hard parts about setting standards is when we don't have a standard that we've seen work out really well, we have to set it for ourselves. I didn't see it. My dad worked all the time.
Yeah.
He's a great dad. Like, I got all my work ethic from him, for sure. But we didn't really have a whole lot of fun. My dad was a pretty serious guy.
Yeah.
And I think being a youth pastor for so long was useful to that, because like all you're doing is having fun with teenagers. Like, that's part of the game. And it was great. And getting to walk with them and mentor them. But I also thought through all the experiences that I wanted to have with my son and that I want to have with Titus. And those are fun.
Yeah.
There's learning. Sure. There's discipline sometimes, or correction.
What's exciting for me right now, though, like if I look at like today going forward,
Yeah.
you know, in the last like 90 days, I have reevaluated what winning looks like to me, and having like in the list, I literally talk about having the energy and patience to be into what my kids are into. I literally wrote that down like not even 3 weeks ago. And so this conversation is just another pivotal stepping stone in this reimagination of what winning looks like to me in this season. You know, accepting that I have the least amount of clients ever right now, so I can spend more time present for people.
Yeah.
To, you know, going through the emotional disconnection from cash flow and profit margins and things of that nature in order to be the husband and father I want to be. I'm accepting less profits right now.
Yeah.
And like that's, and I feel like I'm acknowledging it different than how you brought it up today, but I feel like I was feeling it already. And like, this is just doing God's thing
Yeah.
and planting seeds and then reconfirming them over and over again. But I'm excited about from here forward, right? I have the best leadership team I've ever had inside my business, which gives me permission to spend time away from it. I think that was like, that's a pivotal moment for me too, in the sense of like, I now have a leadership team I trust. Like WinRate would run without me. Outside of it needs the revenue from the coaching clients I have, but from a business process perspective, this is the first time in the history of the company that it operates without me.
Yeah.
And so like now I've given like the first season of time with leaders in place in order to reevaluate some of these standards and reevaluate. And I plan the fishing trip and like,
Yeah.
we're gonna go climbing while we're there. We're gonna do some really cool stuff. And so, but I really, biggest takeaway from this is like, I need to just go have fun with my kids for fun's sake.
You can win fast and live slow.
Ooh. Even the camera guy liked that one. Yeah,
and laugh often.
Win fast, laugh often. It's way better than it's been.
Yeah.
But there's a long journey in this next base camp for me, learning how to be wealthy without working 15 hours a day.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to do it. Like I'm not great at giving myself credit, but in this season right now, like I'm at more baseball games. I'm helping more with homeschool. I'm creating space more than ever. And this is the first step of the next base camp. The last 6 to 10 years was what the climb that brought me to base camp 1. But I think reimagining what winning looks like and becoming more available and emotionally vulnerable and finding and building quiet time and space is going to make me more of that person in base camp 2.
I fully agree. And with that, I think that's a good place.
That's a good place.
Yeah.
Man, I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
If you're still listening, I hope these couple episodes brought you some value, but
they're real. And we need more
this
real.
was the right time.
Yeah.
I wasn't in a place yet because I was still in that climb.
Yeah.
But I'm in base camp 1 right now. For people that coach with me know, like I'm in base camp 1 right now and I'm acclimating. And I'm reimagining what base camp 2 looks like so that I can aggressively go chase that slowly and with more laughter and more fun. And that be okay.
And that'd be okay. What if everything is okay?
We'll check in 5 years.
Yeah.
See how it's going.
There we go.
Cody, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate this. Guys, I appreciate you tuning in. Get out there, win fast, and laugh often.